little live show. Sheets did an early one. And I like some of the plays I made. Didn't quite I didn't play anything big enough to make any real money, but it was the right ideas, I think. Sheets, how was your day? And then talk about like if you have any overall thoughts on the slate.
Yeah, I went contrarian yesterday in the 3-game slate. I used a Josiah Gray, and he actually worked out pretty decently, actually, given the context of the slate. I ended up just barely hanging on in the big buy-in, which was good enough. And I did some MME, and I made a little bit of money there. But the big thing I worked on, and we'll do a separate announcement about that, is I set up a tool where we could compare day after day the ownership projections with the actual results, with the actual ownership. And I have it set up to take my last Sheets run, whatever that is, with the ownership projections and run that against the actual percent drafted. And maybe I'll do a whole video on just that, because there are some questions people have, like what tournaments that refers to and all this stuff. But it's just more of a learning tool that people can look at and see which sports tend to have the tightest projections, to reality, where, we tend to be away, what type of guys. And I just think it's more content. Like right now, it's all on the free site, only because I didn't know how to set it for premium only. I guess people have like a very, very short lead time where if you're looking at it for free before maybe next week, where we should probably make that a premium only thing. And because it has access to the sheets, which is premium only as well. You know what I mean? Right. So when I figure out how to do that, maybe I'm going to see scans tomorrow. Maybe he could just fix all that for me or something like that. But yeah, so we're doing a little bit of that. And because I had the 3-game slate or whatever, and it wasn't too much going on, I was able to spend a little time on that. And all those things went up today. Right now, those sheets are being stored in the video section, just because again, we weren't exactly sure where they're going to go. But like everything else with our site, we're working on making everything nicer and better as we have time to do so.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate you doing that. That's really cool. I think it's going to be a cool thing to use for sure. And with that said, let's jump into today's slate. We've got a big one. We've got some serious weather concerns in not where you are, but close to you. And it's going to kick off pretty quickly. Yeah,
what do we got today?
So we've got Baltimore and New York with serious weather concerns. I'll look at Ross' thing. He's got it as yellow-orange. And then we've got Philadelphia, Pittsburgh. Although, is that game even on the slate? Yeah, it is.
It is.
Yeah. So both those games are the ones that look the worst. We're going to just have to I'll just have to cover that later during live, because I think it's way too far out now to,
is there anything else that's even, but that's it. Okay. That's good. Yeah. So it looks here the Philly Pit is orange and New York Baltimore is yellow-orange. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway. All right. So let's talk about this as assuming that it does play. I guess. Sheets, what are your thoughts here? Are you interested in either of the pitchers? You've got Cole and Rodriguez here. I think you could make a case for both pitchers, and I think you can make a case for Yankee bats.
Yeah. So what I try to do, again, what we both try to do is try to make it a 1,000,000-game slate small. I'm having a little bit better time with the hitting piece of that than the pitching piece. I was able to identify only, I guess, like 8 or 9 stacks, of which I have like 5 priorities pretty much in DraftKings. Pitching wise, I have really like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pitchers, kind of my top pitchers, and then a couple of just kind of on the outside looking in. I don't have Cole at all, and it's kind of concerning to me. Just, I guess, I don't know why, maybe because it's the price or whatever it is. So I'm really not getting to Cole at all. So I guess I'm hoping the game rains out. I am getting to some Rodriguez though, as kind of like as one of my top 6. And I am not actually getting to Yankees or Baltimore, but only because, again, I'm just kind of cutting it off at a certain point. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that's where I'm at. I'm at Rodriguez as one of the top 6, but definitely near the bottom of the top 6. And then no Cole for some reason. And right now, neither of the bats are my priority.
Yeah. So interestingly enough, for some reason, the only thing I wanted to add is just like the Cardinals are a lower. I'm sorry, the Orioles are a lower strikeout team against righties. They're I believe 20th. I just looked it up. What do we have them at 20th right now? But like I'm showing you guys the screen right here, or they're 23rd. But one thing to keep in mind is that they don't have the fewest at bats. They have the second fewest at bats, I believe, against righties all season, and it does affect their strikeout numbers. They've got like 400 less at bats than certain other teams do. So just keep the percentage is still it's still a lower percentage, but it rates more out to be about almost around a little bit closer to even, like middle of the road as a strikeout team. It does feel weird to have we're usually pretty interested in Cole as a guy, and I just think that if people don't play him, I'm probably going to have to get some shares there. All right, Philadelphia and Pittsburgh. We can move over to the next one. This is going to be a much scarier weather game apparently, and you have two guys who look, Keller's been struggling. I don't think he's that valuable, but I do like Wheeler, assuming that this game does play, and that's pretty much all I have from this game. But if it's shaky, I'm happy to pivot somewhere else off of Wheeler.
Before we leave that game, if that game plays, do you like the Rodriguez at all, 6,300 or not really?
Yeah, I mentioned I did. Yeah,
you did. Okay.
Yeah.
Philly Pittsburgh. I agree with you. I have Wheeler as one of my top 6. So if that game plays, I'm gonna have to, probably have to play him. I don't have him as my top, but again, I have him rated like a very close third right now. And that's pretty much all I have as well. I shouldn't say that. I do have some Philly as a possible hitting option, but not on the value side. So I imagine that they're pretty expensive. So I have Philly rated as one of the top 5 or 6, just kind of like raw points type teams, but not particularly great values. So I'll take a look at Philly, and I will obviously consider Wheeler as one of the top options if, in fact, the game rates the play.
Yep. All right, we can move on then to by the way, both those games tremendously hot. As most of the places in America right now. It was really cold. Now it's really, really hot everywhere, including where I'm at, where it's gonna be like the all-time high in this weekend probably. All right, move over. Come on, a little slow here, Saberson. Here we go. All right, Toronto and the Angels. So I'm trying to understand. So we have an Angels bullpen game, basically, right?
I have Giolito.
So we do have Giolito. That's what I can't figure out. I saw that earlier, but I didn't get a confirmation on it.
Well, I sort of have Giolito. So
yeah,
not really. Actually, I really don't have anything confirmed in this game.
Yeah, so I'm gonna say that. Yeah, I like Gausman, and I'm just gonna see who's pitching before I decide anything for Toronto. With Giolito, I'm not like overly interested, but I think they're worth a look. So they're on a very long list if there's a bullpen game of teams that I like, and I like Gausman a lot. I think Gausman is a really, really strong play, and I would prefer him over probably all the pitchers we've talked about so far.
Yeah, agree. I have Hausman. I have Gausman as one of the top 2, and I didn't even realize that I heard sort of Giolito was traded, but I didn't really hear it. So when I see it there, I'm like, ooh, wow, Giolito's on Toronto. Interesting. I will say that if he's actually going to start, I think he's a good play. I don't even know what his salary is, though. I mean,
96, isn't it?
He would be 96. Okay, they don't even.
I don't know. I'm trying to go through my screens without trying to share everything, so it's hard for me to see right now.
Right? Yeah, I hear it here. Yeah. So anyway, it was really. I probably shouldn't get into this on such a huge slate, but I happen to have been listening to some sports radio on the drive out here. I think it was yesterday I forget when it was, but they spent about 15 minutes or 20 minutes talking about like the Dodgers trade situation and stuff. I think you would have found it interesting. It was on Sirius. You probably know the guys I was listening to. I'm not even sure, but they were talking about having interest in Arenado, and their whole thing about how they have all these like quality pitchers that they can afford to kind of get rid of some of them, So, and they were talking about whether it'd be a good idea to do that or whether they would hold off for Ohtani or something. I don't know. I just thought about you because there's I know you're really into it. There's a lot of interesting trade talk for the Dodgers on there.
Yeah, there is. It's just a matter of how far they want to go with this. They've already got 2 shortstops, so they're trying to get their team to be very platoonable. is basically what they're going for. But go ahead.
But anyway, I like Gausman and none of the hitting here.
Yeah, depends on. I want to see who ends up pitching first because I still might revisit this Blue Jays thing if we. I just want to hear for sure that Giolito starting because I did see it different in a couple places. All right, the White Sox in Cleveland. I'm just going to check the weather here real quick. This is another one. I don't understand why the weather. It seems like Roth is pretty okay with. I guess it is. This is the one he's got at yellow. You do have 12-mile-an-hour winds coming in from left. I feel like the winds are always coming in from left in Cleveland. So this is what's throwing the things off. They've got Giolito starting for the White Sox. That's the problem. So who is actually starting for? This is what happens.
I have Toussaint.
No, but I meant Xavier Curry. Okay, yes, Curry is starting for Cleveland. Okay.
I have Curry and Toussaint.
Yeah. So the again, really hot day in Chicago. It's not even in Cleveland. It's in Chicago, 89 degrees, wind blowing in from left. Both of these stacks seem extremely viable. And I think that I'll have interest in both. I just would prefer the lefties. And the problem is we don't have a ton of great lefties on the White Sox. So I think both stacks are viable. Maybe rate Cleveland a little higher. They've upped the power a little bit lately. But I think both of these are very, very, very strong stacks.
At this early look, I have Cleveland as the top overall stack on both sites.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not obviously thrilled about the wind blowing in, like you were saying, but that's where I have this rated right now. I'm not getting to again the White Sox yet, but that's only just because I had to cut it off somewhere, and I don't have any interest in the pitchers.
Yep. All right, moving on to Washington and New York. Sheets, what do you like in this Mets game?
All right, so it's Scherzer against Washington, which is always interesting, I guess. But I have Scherzer as right alongside of Gausman as one of the top options. Now, yes, Washington tends to be pesky, but nonetheless, I still have Scherzer up there. So that's that. I am not getting to Gore, although at that price, it is a little tempting, I have to say. I don't see him projecting all that great, but he could be an interesting low-owned option. I am not getting to any of the hitting in this game, so it's Scherzer, even though, like I say, Washington can be pesky, and maybe a long shot turn and play with Gore. Yeah,
the Mets for some reason face more lefties than anyone, and they strike out a good amount, seventh in the league. So so far, I'm open to both these pitchers. Don't think I'm going to end up touching the hitting here, but I really, I'm very open to both pitchers. I have Scherzer. Actually, Scherzer is basically as good a price considered as Gausman is. So I like both of them a lot, even with the low strikeout.
I will also like to say, by the way, I mean, for what it's worth, it is like 10,000 degrees here. So.
It's in New York, yeah. Again, just like that with everywhere. It seems like today, huh? Everywhere is crazy hot. We haven't seen that really big game from Scherzer, but you might not get it today. But 25 is probably good enough, and I think seems like a really very realistic, attainable number for him. And if you get a couple quick innings, maybe you get the ceiling game like we got from Alcantara the other day with the complete game. By the way, speaking of complete games, what a day Shohei Ohtani had yesterday, huh?
Yep.
You threw a complete game, one hitter in the first game, and hit 2 home runs in the second game of the doubleheader.
That's all.
It's just every day he does something crazy. Anyway, Milwaukee and Atlanta. This is a pretty straightforward look. If you can, we're going to say it all the time with the Braves. If you can get them in, you kind of want to. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with the Cardinals. I like Frelick. Frelick as just a one-off anyway because his nice price. They're easy to stack. They're cheap on the Brewers side. Maybe a combo game stack is a way you can help get yourself to some of the Braves here, but I do have the Braves right at the top.
Yeah, I mean Atlanta's has frustrated people in the last couple of games. Hauser is usually someone you can count on to serve up some stuff. So yeah, I mean if you can get away with playing stuff like Rodriguez and Gore, you know what I mean? Like and cheapo it up at pitcher, and get to Atlanta. Fine, but listen, this is why DFS is tough. You know what I mean? Like all these guys are expensive. Like literally every one of them. except for the weaker guys. That's what kind of makes it fun. Yeah, you play Ozuna at 3,800, and or Rosario, I guess, Arcia. I mean, those guys are cheap enough, but if you want to play the big dogs, it's going to cost you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I totally agree. I'm not getting quite to. I'm not quite to. I've not seen Milwaukee show up on my board yet. Again, for only no other reason, I just cut it off somewhere.
Yeah, I just wanted to throw them out there because they're so cheap, and you've got Frelick as a 3,400 play, which is very reasonable. But then if you wanted to make a stack, you've got guys like Monasterio, Weimer. You're going to have some options if you wanted to go for a stack. And I think this is it's a great hitter's park, as we all know. In Atlanta, there's 5 mile an hour winds coming in from left. That's not enough to make me worry when it's 87 degrees and 60% humidity. So I just think both stacks are definitely in play. And I was more thinking of Milwaukee as like because Atlanta's so expensive, I was trying to think who can you play with them. Milwaukee is definitely one of the teams for me that you can play some cheap bats from, along with your Atlantas if you needed to try and find a way to get them in. And I love that Atlanta is really hard to get in. It just makes me want to try harder. And I don't care. I'm not going to be recency result. People are like, oh, Atlanta's struggling. I'm like, okay, well, if they have 4 games where they don't score 10 runs, I'm not going to freak out. All right. Houston and Tampa Bay. Sheets, what do you have here? Anything?
No. Although, shouldn't we? You know what I mean? I'm not getting to. I guess like I said, like this is like a good baseball game, right? I mean, like could be a preview of something. I guess one day, like this is McClanahan versus Javier, and two teams with that know what they're doing. So probably hoping that the game just stays competitive enough on both sides where none of the foursome smash. With that said, I mean, both the pitchers have ceilings and both the hitting environments have ceilings. So I'm probably going to just hold my nose and just avoid it.
This is an interesting pitching thing because there is a chance that McClanahan gets back his pitch count tonight. You know what I mean? This is his 3rd start back. He threw 86 pitches his last start. Didn't pitch well and maybe would have been able to throw a few more. I feel like we should probably consider, but like you said, I just think that both these guys at low ownership are kind of interesting, and I'm going to definitely consider it. I think the ownership just seems a little too low. Maybe they'll pick up some more as the day goes on. Goldie's got them at 3% and 6%. I think both pitchers have upside. Tampa Bay strikes out a ton. You don't need anybody to strike out a ton for McClanahan. He can do it himself. I think both of those pitchers make for terrific tournament plays, and if I end up doing the entry thing, I think that's what I'm going to end up doing is play a good 15-20% possibly of each of those guys, just because I'll play them at it just makes sense to load up for them on small buy-ins when they're being overlooked. All right, what do you got in Minnesota and Kansas City?
Minnesota and Kansas City, I have only one thing, and that's a little bit of interest in the Minnesota hitting on DraftKings. Not getting to either of the pitchers, and I'm not getting to Kansas City as far as hitting. And it's not as if Minnesota is a huge priority, but I just do have them as an option.
I have Singer as a priority. So Brady Singer has been pitching much, much, much better. He had one sort of stumble in between his last number of games, but including dominating the Dodgers. Like he's 6,400. He's been he looks more like the old Brady Singer of when he got hot last year. So I'm very, very interested in Brady Singer, and I'm very happy that no one else is going to be. He is actually going to be a guy I prioritize to get into some lineups. As of right now, Minnesota, as we know, is the highest strikeout team in baseball against righties, and they don't hit the ball that much either. So they've been a little bit better with these young guys they've called up, but I still think that they're interesting, and I think that Sonny Gray is in play. Like it's I mean, come on, it's Kansas City, and this is sort of my thinking today. There's so many different options at pitcher, but no one's really considering these options as even real options, and I think that they're both options, but Singer is more the priority for me than Gray is.
Well, so this is what you do, and this is how you do it, man. You play Rodriguez and Singer together, you know what I mean, or something like that, and then you roll, right?
Yeah. The only thing I want to point out of what scares me about Singer here and why I understand why you want to stack Minnesota is it is 100 degrees, 99 degrees right now with 13-mile-an-hour winds blowing to left center. So I might have to reconsider my singer just based on how good a hitting environment this is. And if that does happen, you've got the really cheap options from Minnesota. We should get Buxton back from the paternity leave today. But you've got cheap options. Maybe, you know what? I'm going to add Minnesota as a stack, and I'm going to leave Singer in there for right now. Probably going to end up coming off Singer just because that weather just looks like a little bit too much to contend with for a guy who's not historically a great strikeout guy, although he did strike out 9 guys in 6 innings his last time out. All right, Cheats. What about Chicago and St. Louis?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I really have from this game, I mean, like, listen, this is on a short slate. Like, you could make cases for everything here, you know. On this big slate, I just had to prioritize out somewhere. I have like maybe Montgomery like way down the list of playable, you know what I mean? And then I have St. Louis just barely on the outside looking in. But then I'm thinking about this. I mean, you got the leader of the free world in like Drew Smiley at 5,700. You know,
Yep.
he can throw a game, and like you said, I mean, if you don't like Brady Singer, if you don't want to play him, you don't want to play Rodriguez. Is this another cheapo that can put up a number, or at least listen? The St. Louis sucks. You know what I mean? Like they can last freaking place. You know, they can't do anything.
Right.
And if you want to get to Atlanta's, for example, I mean, this is a perfectly viable. Seems like a perfectly viable option.
Yeah, I don't understand what's happening where we don't have a line yet on this game. Am I missing something here? I really don't understand it. I have to revisit this one at 6 because I hear you with the Smiley. I don't even think Montgomery's that bad a play, but like I don't really know why there's no run total.
No, hold on. I got this. Hold on. I'll get you.
What's the weather? Hold on.
I'll get you a run total. Hold on.
I need to.
Let me see. Which game we're talking about? Cubs. Let me just look through this.
I don't know that. Well, I mean, let me just see real quick.
Wow, no, you know what? You're 100% right. Look at this.
Yeah, there's no total.
There's no total. I have no line.
Yeah, so we're just gonna have to just revisit this one. I have no idea who's pitching.
Why do you suppose this is? Probably because of a pitching thing?
You know who's pitching.
Okay.
But that is weird.
Yeah.
All right. So, all right, we've got Sears and Freeland in Oakland Sheets. I'm sorry, in Colorado. What are we doing here?
Where's the Oakland Whisperer? Where's Eric Johnson? I mean,
there's no Oakland Whisperer when they're playing in Colorado.
What are we supposed to do here? You know, like what I was going to get at is like normally, like when we're playing Oakland, we're playing them at low ownership. You know, as like dart throws. Now they're going to be, I imagine, chalk, right? Because they're in Colorado. I don't know. They rate really well. What can I tell you? I mean, they rate really well, and I do think that on a 14-game slate, they're probably not going to be as owned as on smaller slates. But because it's a 14-game slate, it's harder for them to be optimal. You know, it's hard. If we forget optimal, it's harder for them to get there. So I do like him, and I mean Freeland, he's not the worst. Every once in a while, you can put up a number. I just have to continue to look at ownership. You know what I mean? But Oakland does project pretty well, and both on DraftKings and on FanDuel, and I don't have anything on Colorado.
Neither will anyone else on Colorado. Just worth noting, they're going to be completely unowned in basically the same type of matchup. Like, there's no reason why Colorado shouldn't be as owned as Oakland, in my opinion. Here, I understand their lineup sucks, but we could say the same about Oakland. They're only slightly more expensive. I think this is if I was going to play Oakland, I could use the low owned side of Colorado on the other side and feel okay with it. For what it's worth, there are 9-mile-an-hour winds coming in from right field, but it's Colorado. It's 83 degrees. It's not going to matter that much. It just won't be like an extra boost to the hitting. But I guess that's my note for the game. I do like Oakland, but I'm not going to make them a full stack at all. And I definitely am considering a Colorado full stack at low ownership.
I mean, the Oakland guys are cheap. You know what I mean? Like you can play those pitchers. So I guess they are going to be popular at the end of the day.
Yeah, it'll be really popular. And it just seems like it's the wrong time to play Oakland. We keep playing them at low ownership, and that's been good to us. Like I don't want to. I don't know. It just feels like playing them as chalk when they're the worst offense in baseball doesn't seem like the right thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Logan Gilbert in Arizona. What do you got for the Arizona game sheets?
I only have I have a couple of things actually. I have Seattle as one of the better values on the slate actually.
Yeah.
As far as the stack goes, and I am not getting to Logan Gilbert, nor am I getting to Tommy Henry. So for me, and I'm not getting to Arizona. So for me, it's just Seattle is kind of a decent value.
Is it a mistake that, like, I mean, this is what I'm saying is like, what is the really huge gap? I understand that it's a bad matchup, okay, but I just don't think guys should be like, if you're talking about 1/10 the ownership of the other guys in the 9, like Scherzer in a tough matchup, I think we should play a little bit of them. So I'll keep Gilbert on my list, and I totally agree. I have Seattle actually as a priority to get exposure to here. Even with the roof closed in Arizona, it's still an upgrade from playing in Seattle. And you have, traditionally a team that we like to play against lefties because they are historically decent against lefties. So I like the idea of playing some Seattle here. I'm on board with the Seattle stuff. They're one of my priorities actually, and they're really good value when you get Suarez, Teoscar, Tom Murphy, Dylan Moore. There's just a lot of really cheap bats, and I think that they're going to have a little bit of ownership. Is the one thing I'd say, but I don't think it's enough to work to keep me off of it today. All right, let's move over to Texas and San Diego.
I have nothing as far as the hitting in this game. Pitching wise, I have Musgrove as closer to one of my top plays than I really like here. I have him rated 6th, and I don't think I want to do it. I mean, I don't need to play him in 9,700 against Texas. That's just kind of my non-analytical take on this. So I'm probably just going to be off of the game.
We're a little too in sync on this one. I'm not especially interested in Musgrove, and I just cannot understand why he'd be that owned. If he's not owned, I would come back to him and play him some. But I don't see any reason you have to do that either. I would rather play Scherzer. I would rather play Gaussman as a spend up than I would Musgrove. If he ends up in a lineup or two of mine in the lottery thing, then it's not going to surprise me. But he's not a guy who I'm trying to target. I actually think Dunning fits the mold of all these other guys we're talking about, but it's a tough matchup. But just if you want to do the dumpster diving thing, he's a guy you can consider. That's all I've got written down for him.
I tell you, one of the later iterations, hopefully, of these ownership stuff that I'm putting up there is someone's got to do it, but is to keep track, of which guys we tend to miss on a lot. Does Musgrove come up more owned than we think every week, for example, so that could be something that somebody smarter than you and me, maybe your friend that'll be joining us, can figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
And that's all right. Well, we got 2 games left, right?
Yep. Why don't you start us off with the Dodgers?
Okay. So I have interest in this stuff. I have interest in Miller for the Dodgers. I have interest in the Dodgers, and I have some interest in Cincinnati. Like all this on DraftKings. Now, the Dodgers in Cincinnati, I don't have them listed as necessarily the greatest values, but I have them as kind of like raw points or whatever. So maybe they're expensive. I'm not sure. But I do like both of them, and I do like the pitcher here. I actually have him as 4th, the Miller guy. So you got to tell me about him a little bit, and tell me if you like the Dodgers as well.
Yeah, Bobby Miller is one of the top prospects in baseball.
Oh, okay, good. All right. Okay.
Yeah, and he's been nothing but good so far. He's one of.
So he's another guy that you could play instead of Singer or Rodriguez or all those guys.
He's a little more expensive. Yeah. He's a little more.
But he's not $9K. You know what I mean?
No, and he's unlike everybody else. He's legitimately going to be an all-star every year. He throws 100 plus.
Oh, okay.
He's really, really, really good. It's just a matter of will he figure it out and have everything put together. He's only had one bad start. Every other start has been good this year, pretty much. Yeah, he's high on my priority list, and the Dodgers are very high on my priority list as another team to try to get in.
Yeah.
And that's the trick, but that's what I'm going to try and do.
Well, you know what? You get a little bit of a correlation if you play Miller with the Dodgers. So
yeah, Miller with the Dodgers, and then try and maybe a piece of the. Let's just see real quick what the Dodgers ownership is going to be hitting wise, because I think
no one's going to play them. I don't think anybody's going to play them.
I don't think you're right about that.
You think so? I think if people are going to spend up, they're going to play Atlanta. Otherwise, they're going to go with like Cleveland and Oakland. I don't know.
Dodgers are showing basically the similar ownership to Atlanta.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, don't forget, it's 80 degrees in LA. It's not. This becomes a great hitter's park from a bad hitter's park really quickly without the marine layer. All right. San Francisco and Boston. San Francisco. Let me just see the temperature in San Francisco right now, because what do we got? 60 degrees. It's bizarre, man. How can everybody else in the world be 90 and San Francisco 60 every time? They just never. It's just bizarre.
So with that said, I mean, I'll start. I mean, considering it's like the coldest place in the world or whatever it is, I have both these pitchers as playable. And we're talking about two completely different price ranges here, but I have them like alongside of, and I guess to wrap up, right? So I have them alongside of Montgomery as like that second group. Like I have just to recap. So I have Gausman and Scherzer and Wheeler, and then I have Miller, Rodriguez, and then Musgrove, who I'm just intentionally Xing. And then after that, I have this threesome of Webb, Montgomery, and Cutter, Crawford. Just not quite as good as the others, but it's a huge slate. You know what I mean? So maybe try it. And the fact that you're telling me that every place in the country is 100 degrees except this game, I mean, that's good enough for me. You know, I'll sprinkle these guys in, and I don't think Webb is going to get much action at all. You know. So I'm gonna take a shot at this, and I'm not, fortunately, I'm not seeing any of the hitting showing up here also, which gives me a little confidence. So yeah, I mean, I in MME I'll play both these guys.
Yeah, agreed. Neither are my priorities, but they're both. I actually think though that I would take Crawford now that I look at it over Singer, just because of the weather. Maybe that's right or wrong, but there is that group like. You have different options today is basically the theme of what I'm saying here. So my favorite, both pieces of the Colorado Oakland game, but I like Colorado at the low ownership. Minnesota, because the weather, as you mentioned, against Singer could give them in some trouble. I like Atlanta, I like the Dodgers, and I like Seattle. Atlanta, the Dodgers, and Seattle will be my main base to choose from for five mans. And then Webb, Bobby Miller, Scherzer, Gausman as my favorite of the pitchers. But there's a ton of things you can do where you play these, Cutter, Crawford, and Rodriguez, or Singer, or if Smiley is in fact starting Smiley at 5,700, I'm definitely going to do some builds like that with a double spend down, and then I'm probably going to do some double spend up builds as well. But I think this is not a bad slate for it, because even with these top end arms, like let's just go through it really quickly. For the slate, the top end arms are not necessarily in spots where I expect them to put up monster ceiling games. Honestly, the guy who I think would have Gausman's in a good spot. Other than Gausman, though, you really don't have like your next best probably upside play would be either Garrett Cole and Shane McClanahan, and they're both going to be extremely low, or they're both going to be very low owned. So there's just a lot of options here, and there's just a lot of ways to build. So it should be a fun slate. But spending up, you're going to end up finding yourself with some Colorado, Oakland, or Seattle if you're me. Spending down, you're going to end up with the pitcher. You're going to end up with the Dodgers and Atlanta for me. That's my priorities. On
FanDuel, just so you know, I have Gausman as the top guy over there, and then a whole bunch of guys like tied for second, honestly. And then hitting wise, pretty much the same as before. Cleveland and Oakland on the value side, and Atlanta and the Dodgers on the spend up side.
And be very careful. The one thing I would say about the Dodgers, be very careful. You're going to see 2 or 3 pinch hitters a game, I think, now. They're playing to win, and they just added Kike Hernandez and Ahmed Rosario. So now they have their righties filled out, which means that guys like Peralta and Hayward aren't going to start, but could come in very quickly. Or two of Peralta, Hayward, and Outman won't start. It'll be out. You get probably Kike and Ahmed in the lineup today. So just keep that in mind, that you're going to see some pinch hitters for especially the bottom of the Dodgers order. All right. Good luck to everybody. Please hit the like button before you get out of here. I'll firm things up and I'll post all my content and stuff like that. And hopefully we'll make some money. Sheets, any final thoughts?
Yeah. So I'm not going to be around for the live tonight,
Okay.
for the live before lock. And just so you guys know, I did post my MMA, both the DFS breakdown and the betting breakdown. Those projections are up, as well as and FanDuel will be up a little bit later today. Whatever I can do as far as NASCAR will go up, the LOLs continue to go up. And just because a couple of people have asked regarding the golf showdown, I'm only doing sheets for the Sunday showdowns. And the only reason for that is because that's the only one that actually interests me. Just the idea that like you could have the place differential, baked into it. I kind of find that sort of interesting. So if anything, I will do it for the Sunday. But no, I'm currently not doing. I don't know if Goldie does, but I'm not going to be doing much for the golf showdown. But before we go, I just want to let you know I just did run a Saber Sim build based on at least the True DFS projections. And not surprisingly, I am getting to 98% Cleveland.
Well, I'll tell you what, SaberSim doesn't F around, do they? They just go after it. They
do not. They do, and 6% Oakland.
Oh my God. This is what happens, though. Then you end up with you look at the leaderboards on certain nights, and it's like I see all these little SaberSim tags, and I know what's going on now. These guys, they have 100% by like 10 guys of teams that are being like 4% owned.
Right. Every once in a while, they get a little frisky.
No, I like it. I like what they do. I think that's a really good way to play baseball. But all right, good luck to everybody. Sheets, have a good day and have a good evening. And guys, I'll see you at 6.